So guys, welcome to Comic Art Channel. We have another episode of auction and market talk with the illustrious Yokuri. How you doing? How you
I'm
doing,
doing
yo?
great.
Huh?
I'm doing great.
You
L-
feeling good?
I feel very tired, but not too tired about talking about comic art. I
we
could talk
yeah,
about this stuff.
I dragged Yokuri out late at night. Uh, it's past bedtime, but we just had an auction that finished that we need to talk
Yep.
about and hopefully talk about some other collecting related topics as we're talking about this stuff. Um, but yeah, the Harlan Ellison collection. That auction just finished. Um, when was that? Friday. Friday. So small number of pieces from the collection of Harlan Ellison, but yeah, I mean there was no. Did you see any weakness in this auction?
No, it was incredibly strong, and maybe that's because it's from Harlan Ellison's collection, so
No.
might be might be worth a little bit of a premium. But I guess did see a little weakness in some of the Watchmen pages.
Mm-hmm. I
Um,
will get to that.
yeah, but other
Um,
than that, the prices seem quite robust.
okay. So I mean, we got to start off with color guide. Color guide. Um, so what we got is the finished art, the cover for Spawn #2 here, painted by paint airbrush by Ken Stacy, who did I don't know how many covers he did. He did the first one, second one. I don't know if he did um, any after that.
Hmm.
Um,
Was this painted on velvet or maybe on the side of a van?
this.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
What do you think? What do you think, yo?
Not really my jam, but
I mean, it. Hey, yeah. Oh, you were reading at this time, huh? Were you reading at
I
this
wasn't
time?
reading it this time. I
Okay.
don't understand the historical significance of
Uh,
this.
yes. Spawn #2.
Ah,
Spawn #2.
yep.
It's it's Spawn.
Mhm.
Todd McFarlane.
Holy moly. Wow.
Um,
Strong.
168. It came into the bidding at I think like 21, and the
Wow.
live bidding it just ramped
Hmm.
nonstop.
No prices were discovered there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, everyone was hoping. Anyone that was looking at it was probably hoping it went
Yeah.
undercover, or you got the benefit of the Dave Mandel. It's a color guide, and maybe others wouldn't bid. But
So is there
finally,
an acetate overlay with the line work on it?
no. So it looks like it is just McFarlane's inks printed
Mhm.
on board, and then airbrush and whatever by Stacy on top of that.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's no original line work. Presumably, McFarlane still has the inks
Right.
for this cover. Though that's not the cover. This is the cover, right? This is the final cover.
Right. So this
Um,
is the color art, it's not a color guide.
yes, this is the final art. It's not a guide. Um, there are inks, right? Black and white inks, and then there's this. So, which one's more valuable?
Hmm. I don't know, I guess it
Well,
depends on who it is. If
I
if 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 you're like a real fanboy and you love the comic, this would look more like what you pulled off the stands versus some janky, black and white art.
So if McFarlane Spider-Man covers, and there's none of this here, but if McFarlane Spider-Man covers are what? Depends on which one, right? But
Yeah, what are
they're
they
all
now?
probably more
Like
expensive
half a
than this.
million or something?
Yeah, they're all
Jeez.
more expensive than what this went for.
Yeah.
I mean, the inks have to be more expensive than this, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I would think so.
Then why? I don't know. Like why?
Yeah.
Why, if this is the final cover, right?
Because Ken Stacy is not who you think of as being the artist of Spawn. It's really
Yeah,
Todd McFarlane,
yeah,
and he's the first one to give the first life to the image by recording it with pencil and ink.
You know it's the same situation with the Mike Zeck Punisher covers, no? And so Mike Zeck had pen and ink line work,
Mhm.
and then Zimmelman did this other thing where he blew it up, some projector and painted, airbrush painted
Okay.
those covers. And from what I know, I don't know the market that well, but from what I know, those airbrush covers are a lot more valuable than the
Hmm,
original inks. So why is that reversed here?
that's a good question, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know people were shocked by this price, maybe because the live bidding started at 21,000,
Mhm.
and it more than 8x'd, right?
Yeah.
Um,
It looks
but
like
yeah,
2 years of tuition at Harvard to me.
yeah. Well, triumph of the color guide / art
That's right.
here, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have this.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at Lynn Varley's work on, Electra Lives again, right? The versus Frank's inked art, I mean, he's just throwing down outlines
Hmm.
for her to be able to embellish it and really, really make the art sing.
Yeah,
He's not throwing down any shading or any blacks or anything like that. He's just like, "Okay, Lynn's gonna take care of that shit."
yeah,
Um, so yeah, there's a case where, the color guides might hang on the wall and look a lot better,
yeah.
than the originals.
No, I mean, as a kid, I remember this cover, the cover to number one, and I do remember like thinking, "Damn, these colors, right, are like
Mhm.
amazing, right?"
Mhm.
Like, and yeah, I mean, back then I had no idea about original art, of course, right?
Yep.
Or really the process of coloring, right? And I guess it varied, but I still remember being blown away by the effects.
Hmm.
All right,
So where'd you get $168,000 from?
no way, man, no way. I mean,
You
no,
didn't so you
it's
didn't
just
buy this? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I was tracking. See, stop tracking,
Oh,
but I
okay.
was tracking
Yeah.
it.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Why so weak?
I mean, coming in, but I there was nothing in my mind that said you're gonna end
Yeah.
up with this.
Bless you.
Excuse me. Yeah, and then it went off, right? It went
Mhm.
off for this auction. Who knows if that's a cheap price? I don't know. It's
I
Spawn
don't
number
know.
two. It's one of the best-selling comics, you know, in history, probably, but even Spawn number two.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, it looks like that Otomo was a pretty good deal at this point, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, that was like I don't even know what it came from, but just because it's a Tomo, just because it's so hard to get his work,
I think it
I could
was
see
like
that.
it's
Yeah.
it was an anime. It was an anime that he
Okay.
did, and it was kind of like an anime anthology, multiple stories in this short
Hmm.
stories in this anime
Okay.
that he did a bunch of. I don't know if he did them all.
Hmm.
And I guess that was like a promotional what a piece for that um, anime. I think you could watch it on Amazon Prime. It might be on there.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
there's a few good stories. It's not Akira, you know, but
Right, right. So, but
mm,
this is Spawn number 2. So,
yeah, yeah,
if you're that kind of collector, um, you could see this being thought of as being a good price and maybe something that might be worth more in the future because all of these things go bananas. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, relative to other '90s stuff, this isn't that outrageous. I mean, some people will say, some
Yeah.
people will say like, "Oh my god," right? It's like so much, but um, relative to other '90s stuff,
Hmm.
how is this an outrageous number? There
Yeah.
have been some huge numbers put up.
Well, there was one
So
other person who thought it was worth $160,000. So
yeah,
you can look at it that way.
yeah. All right, but you did mention Watchmen. Uh, no weakness here on this page.
Yeah.
Fantastic page.
Fantastic.
Um, incredible, memorable moment.
Yep. I'd rather have 2 of these than, that last one. This is me personally.
Then Spawn number two.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see that. You know. Um, yeah, and Watchmen. It's Watchmen.
Yeah.
It's Watchmen. One of the greatest comics of all time. Alan Moore, Dave Gibbons. Um,
Beautiful page. I love that when he that panel where he's taking apart that machine
yeah,
with his powers. Oh, it's so cool.
I mean it's so good. You
Yeah.
know.
I
Um,
when it came out, I mean, I was 14 years old, right? So, a lot of the concepts in it and my ability to appreciate the great craft of what these guys were doing, like, I didn't warm up to it instantly at that age, because I just couldn't understand a lot of what was going on,
yeah.
and now, after some more life experience, um, I I reread it, um, uh, like a couple of years ago, and it just absolutely blew my mind. It's an absolute masterpiece, and if you do any digging and you understand the craft and how well planned out, I mean, this is like it's a wonderful machine that Alan Moore built and imagined, and Gibbons was like the perfect guy to pull it off. It's just so intricate, and there's so much going on, just but below the surface, and so many things going on thematically, and so much craft involved in constructing every page, every panel is so incredibly well thought out.
Yeah.
There's never been anything like this. There may never be anything like this done ever again. It's just the
Mhm.
pinnacle of craft and comics creation, and I always thought the art was kinda stiff. I wasn't necessarily like a huge Gibbons fan. Of those artists, I would say I like Bolland a lot more
Mm,
at the time. It was sort of similar UK guys with, kinda somewhat similar styles. Um, he just seemed but Gibbons seemed a little bit stiff to me, but
mhm.
then I happened to see one of these pages in real life, and you can't really appreciate how good they are until you see a really good Watchmen page in person.
Yeah.
You just see how exactly how good, Gibbons is.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely not flashy, but seeing this OA, you know, imagine seeing this up close in person, right? I mean,
Yeah, the way he spots the blacks and his
uh,
line weight and his precision, it's
yeah,
just so clean. It's
masterwork. It is a
super
masterwork.
crisp, super
No.
crisp, super clean, and, I love that, last panel where, Lori says, "Oh, yeah, I'm going on a date with this guy I know has a crush on me," and Doctor Manhattan's like, "I don't give a
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
mean, it just says
"You do
everything.
whatever you
It
want.
says everything.
You're just meat to me.
Yeah,
You're just, a bunch of molecules." And he doesn't give a fuck. He's playing with his machines.
yeah,
It's just a brilliant page. Totally brilliant.
yeah. And this was the star of the auction as far as Watchmen pages go.
Yep.
Went at
9-panel
84.
grid, no stats,
Yeah.
just mint. Perfect.
Do you think this is expensive for this? Some people were appalled from what I saw at how far Watchmen pages have gone, and the fact that this went for 84,000. They were outraged. It seemed like.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was there a discussion online about this price
I mean,
saying
I've
it
seen
was
maybe somewhere on the CGC boards reviewing this auction, but there were.
right,
I wouldn't say the consensus was this was outrageous, but
right.
there were people that were outraged, and I'm thinking, hey, this seems like the quality of this page. As this was happening, I wouldn't be shocked to see a six-figure result, and I know like we haven't seen on in Watchmen Interiors public six-figure results. But
Yeah.
that was then. This is now.
Privately, I think people with A-plus pages I wouldn't call this an A-plus page, but, people with just, like, super superior pages, I think they're looking for 6 figures,
Mm.
um, but, um Y there are only so many of those to go around. This is definitely a strong price, but I think if you would ask all those people that are bitching about the price, "Oh, what would you buy it for?" What would they say? "Oh, well, I thought it should have gone at, 60 at the most," right? But then
Yeah,
if you get, like, 20 people that would have paid 60 for it, then how does it go for 60, right? It's not
yeah,
going for 60.
yeah.
And you get maybe you just had 1 or 2 people that for them, aesthetically, this page really did it. Maybe they don't have a page. Um, maybe they have, some level of wealth that, you can't understand, and you just get 2 rich people dueling it out, for an awesome page. Why not?
Well,
It doesn't
this
offend
book.
me. I mean, it's an auction, right? It's like would I have liked to have bought
Yeah,
this for $1,000? Yes, but,
yeah,
I can't always
yeah.
have what I want, so
I mean,
let
there's a
shut the
lot of
fuck up. I don't know why anybody's bitching about it.
conversation these days on uh how prices have taken off. People are priced out. A little bit of frustration, some anger, maybe. Um, yeah, but this book came out, about the same time as Dark Knight
Mhm.
came out, and it seems that Dark Knight pages are six-figure minimum at this point. And yes, there are more Watchmen pages, right? Um, what is it? Something that probably like 200 to like 330, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of Dark Knight pages are locked up in you know
Right, and not many of them have Batman on it, like a
yeah,
full shot of Batman, that's another fraction of it, and then of the ones that do have Batman on it, one one collector in particular probably has a ton of them, and then for the rest of them, maybe somebody's got 1 page, maybe 2 pages, it's very hard to get someone who has 1 page of anything to sell,
yeah.
so I think that's why Dark Knight is crazy. Watchmen doesn't seem to be as locked up. There seem to be more. You see more of them come up to auction. You see more of them in play. Um,
I
and
don't know
I
when
I
these
think it
outside of
might be sacrilege. I think it's the superior book, but
I mean, there are the some of the best pages you probably want, from Dark Knight, like the best of Dark Knight
mhm.
might beat the best of Watchmen, but overall, I mean, I'd prefer probably a Watchmen page, right? If you're told you're gonna randomly get a page, you don't know what it is, right? I'd probably prefer a Watchmen page. I don't know.
Yeah, there's
Um,
so in the Dark Knight, there's so many, like, talking head television pages.
yeah, imagine just getting one of those.
Yeah, that would be kinda disappointing, I think. But still
Okay.
cool to have. I mean, wouldn't kick that out of bed, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Um,
So I
but
mean, yeah, it all comes down to, look, if you wanted this page in some collection, is 84,000 gonna do it? You know, and I don't know. That's questionable. It's questionable coming into this auction. If you showed people that are after Watchmen pages, like, oh, you can. I think this is in somebody's collection. Why don't you go make an offer? Does this 84,000 get you the page? And
it depends on how many pages they own, right?
yeah,
And what their situation is. It's so situational when you're talking about private deals, but this is, hey, it's out there, you animals go out and bid on it. Um, but yeah, versus a private deal, it would really depend on the circumstances.
I just
Um,
think things that aren't necessary for sale, and there are no Watchmen pages for sale outside of the ones that you know
yeah.
are popping up in auction. It's really difficult to get you know
Mhm,
um, a page for what people would deem good value or fair market value, right?
mhm.
Like, I've seen at a calf last calf live there was a Watchman page up, and it was aggressive pricing. It was somewhere in this area. I think it might have been like 70 grand or something
Oh,
like that.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
For not as good a page, right?
Yeah.
And
There was one at auction. There was a Rorschach page, where he's in the bar and he's smushing the guy's hand with the glass in it, and that went I think that went somewhere around here, didn't it?
that was a Christian page, right?
Yeah, I'm
That
not
was a
s
Christian page.
I
I
don't
don't know if it's
remember
direct from
exactly,
him
but it
or
was
he
Rorschach in a
sold it quick.
bar,
In
and
the
I think it
bar
was
where he like he crushes the guy's
yeah,
hand, right?
I think there might have been a stat on the page, but if you look at the other stuff that's come to auction, there weren't really as any as quite as strong as this one.
Mhm.
So I'm not surprised to see it go for premium. If the other ones were going for, I don't know, 40s, like some of the Owlship ones, like
Mhm.
yeah,
I
can you
mean,
see this one go
it seems
higher?
to me.
Sure, right? I mean, should it have been 70 or 80? But I mean, whatever it goes for, like, why bitch about it? Like a lot of people, they spend like $40,000 buying like 80 pages a year,
Yeah,
at 500 a piece. You're like, if you really want one, just don't buy all this other shit and just, just save up and as you'll see, you can get a Watchman page without, not for $84,000.
yeah, yeah. We'll get back to what you just said about the 80 pieces, 40 grand. But you know what? There were two other Watchmen pages in this auction that went for a pretty reasonable price. I would, submit that they were great value. They were almost, you know, giveaway value, and it's pretty sick to say, oh,
Yeah,
28,000, or here I gave mine away
yeah.
right now. But you know,
That's not it's not it's
17,000.
not it's not a it's not a year at Harvard, but maybe, maybe at a SUNY school, at state school, it's a year at state school.
Yeah,
So,
but relative to what these pages are, and we just
mhm,
had a long discussion on like Watchmen, how amazing, of a story of a book um, it is, just a pinnacle of narrative art. Um, going for less than 30 grand here, and
yep,
this page for less than 20 grand.
right? You
And
probably get a better education at state school than you do at Harvard, so there you go. You
I
don't you don't make the connections, um,
so yeah,
yeah,
I won this page, um, which I felt like was given away to me.
incredible price.
Yeah.
And a
Um,
cool moment, so just read the dialogue, right? I mean, so yeah, the panels are, repetitive, but it's part of a sequence, and it's not repetitive because, the camera is changing and, the ship is moving relative to where that mountain is, but
mhm.
let's read the dialogue and get a feel for this. Oh no, beyond that, events grow even sketchier. I am standing in deep snow. I am killing someone. Their identity is uncertain. Look at it, a volcano as large as Missouri, its summit 15 miles high, piercing even the atmospheric blanket. Breathtaking. Alan Moore's words, ladies and gentlemen.
Well,
Breathtaking, John. What about the war? You've got to prevent it. Everyone will die, and the universe will not even notice. We've been through this before, Laura. You argued that human life was more significant than this excellent desolation, and I was not convinced. You attempted to compare the mere uncertainty in your existence with the chaos of the world beneath us. But where are the pinnacles to rival this Olympus? Where are the depths to match those of, but we are near the Valles Marineris. You may see for yourself. I mean,
awesome.
shit.
Huh?
So, okay, if this was modern art, you'd have 3 panels and you just kinda be like, "Oh, okay, it's kinda like a landscape and, like, the figures are little," but you've got Alan Moore's words right there. And it's this is a page in one of the greatest, I mean, the greatest comic ever made.
Yeah. And look, we all want flashy, we all want action, I think that's just, you know, born into us, but there's a lot of character acting. You just see, Dr. Manhattan just oblivious, to Laurie's just, pleading, right? And despair, right? Um, with these tiny figures, right? You see her just looking down after her plea, just like,
Mhm.
oh man, I give up. And he's just, you know, totally just indifferent, right?
Yep.
To, her despair, and so it's a memorable moment, um, beautiful storytelling. Uh, you might think that this is potential for stats on this page, but no, there's no stats on this page. Gibbons
Nope.
drew every panel over again. 3 huge tiers. I think it's like a 6 panel sequence, basically, right in the book. Um,
Yeah, and that would be cool to string it together, if you ever saw the other one,
yeah, I
right?
don't think I'll have the opportunity at this price, And yeah, I mean, I bought it. Not, I came into this auction, um, you know, not expecting to buy, but prepared to buy should the winds blow my way. And by the time we got to this uh, piece right here,
Mhm.
the third of 3, um, the bidding was really weak, you know,
Yeah.
and I was kind of started like, oh man,
Mhm.
and I think I wasn't even signed in, and so I had to sign in real fast, and luckily I was fast enough,
Okay.
um,
And
And
also it's sold with the is it a color guide or is it
this is
color art? I'm
so
not sure.
this is an actual color guide,
That looks
right?
like a guide.
Yeah,
That
this is
doesn't look
clearly
like
a
the finished
guide,
art.
right? Look, there's a lot of
Yes.
writing here. Look, it tells you what color,
Yep.
you know, for the
That's a color
printer.
guide.
Yes.
That
And
should not
yes,
be worth a lot of money.
this
That's
is
not
why
color
this is
art.
nothing. It's a throw in. It's a throw in, to this Watchmen page, right?
Mhm.
Of original art. And so this, I agree. Color guide. It's a freaking color guide. Okay. It's nothing, right?
It looks like he drew that shit with,
Yeah.
like,
It's an
Crayola
artifact,
markers, right?
right? It's an
The
artifact.
he got some fucking Crayola markers, and he's just, he had his, like, six-year-old kid, color that.
Yeah. Right? Look at this right here. Huh? Look at
Yeah.
this.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, all that. Wow.
You know?
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, male butts in Watchmen.
Oh yeah.
Yep,
I
you got
guess that's why it's your
the
favorite
3
story.
pages with butts, with male butts. Maybe Harlan likes butts. He likes
Oh
butts.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Huh?
Yeah,
Yes.
this one oh, yeah, you got a good one.
So
Night
another
Owl,
one,
that's kinda like a little paunchy tushy.
another page, at 29,000,
Mhm.
um, great storytelling moment, okay? Um, great last tier.
Yeah, this was in issue 8 where they were doing this thing where they do 6 panels of, a different sequence while they were running one big panel at the bottom
Mhm, mhm.
of Silk Spectre and Night Owl getting ready to, bust Rorschach out of jail.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, like, the quote, unquote, "money shot" is the bottom panel, right? But there's some cool things, going on in the 6 panels on the top. I mean, yeah, it's like the guys in the newsroom and nobody cares, but look what they're pasting down. Oh, look, is that the comedian? Is that Rorschach? Is that Night Owl? So it's kinda cool that, uh, that they're putting together this newspaper, and you've got the images of some pretty badass characters, but maybe people didn't notice, right? And
Yeah.
then you've got another thing that was pointed out to me by a friend of mine was you got the Watchman smiley face in it,
Right here. Yep.
right? So if you get off on like this kind of thing, other than I mean, it is the 6 panels by themselves, you kinda look at them and it's not all that interesting, and they're just nerding out about, putting together a newspaper, but there's some cool stuff, going on as they're pasting it together. So just the visual storytelling of them assembling the newspaper is pretty cool. It's pretty
Yep.
cool. And then the bottom panel is just, really it's a gorgeous illustration. So yeah, I think at that price, it's a winner. So there was this really shiny object that, there was some really hot and heavy bidding on. Everybody like the people were really focused on that page and they didn't win it and they go, wah, wah, oh, and then just gave up. I don't know. And they just
Yep.
didn't care as much about these other
I
2
don't know.
pages that have there's almost no bad Watchmen page when you think about it. There's always something interesting going on from a craft perspective.
Yes, I think this is a fantastic page, and I could see why it did better than that third page. And yeah, I mean, there are people asleep at the wheel, and now, like, if you didn't have a Watchmen page and you were in the mix for this or the next page, you're not you the chances are extremely low you're going to get another chance in very quickly after this at anywhere near those prices. Not to say encourage speculation or anything like that. It has nothing to do with speculating. It's just to say that go out and try to get a Watchman page and see, not that anyone will give you a number, but
Mhm.
see what numbers you can throw out and still get denied. Okay. And so um, yeah, I mean, this too, I think, was a great buy. Um,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely on the cheaper end. I can see why it slipped through the cracks, right? It's not, as, flashy, you've got the weird newspaper guys in it, but there are some cool things going on, so I do think it was on the cheap s I hate to say it, but, that's a lot of money, but I do think it was a reasonably good value, given where some of these other pages have been, trading.
Hey, make offer to owner 43, 2 or more. uh, I don't think that even gets you this page. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it does
Yeah.
either.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
And this is your second Watchmen page, right, Jason?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I
You got a
joined you in the Two Watchmen Club.
you got a good eye for value.
Yeah. Hey, that's the only way I can buy art.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm in this league where yeah, these are the only moments. Something like this, some crazy aberration like this, um, is when I could buy get a Watchmen page, and I'm happy. I'm happy
It's so
to
cool,
have it.
man. So
I'm
cool.
over the moon to have this. Because it's Watchmen. I'd rather have this than the first appearance of, um, I don't know, some random character. Okay, any random character, I'd rather have this.
Oh,
You
man.
know,
Yeah.
so it's um, in a sense, you're kind of looking at value, right? You're looking at value, just because you don't want to overpay or you don't want to get killed on it, right? I'm not, when you're buying for value, and let's talk about this. When you're buying for value, most of the time for me, it's because I already like this artist or this story, and but though I wasn't planning to buy, but if the price is too good to be true, like why wouldn't I buy, right? Like I like the artist. It isn't with the mentality that, oh, um, I can buy this and then sell it, later down the line for X or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, I have a chance to get this where I didn't think so before. Because I thought, coming into this auction or coming into any auction with Watchmen, I have one page. That's all I'm gonna ever have.
Yeah.
Unless some crazy thing happened, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, and then some crazy thing happened where like there was zero bidding on this piece, and even then I was extremely weak with a cut bid. I put in one bid. It was the last cut bid, and whoever else was bidding, somehow they're like, oh, that's too much for me, right?
Right.
Right? And so, I mean,
Uh,
I don't know
yeah.
what it's probably like a $500 bid at that time,
Right.
right?
Right.
As we're at 1,000 increment. I put in 500. You just need to do 500 more, and you have this, right? And they didn't, and it was mine. I'm like, okay, great, you know.
Right. Well, would you rather have this, or would you rather have, like, I don't know, would you
I
rather
mean,
have,
even in
like
this
like
auction,
100 shares of
let
Apple stock,
let's
right?
look,
I
yeah.
mean,
I mean, let's look at this
who
auction.
would you rather that I mean, just think about it like that. I mean, shit, I would rather have this. This is cool. And
Look,
and you picked your spot well, right?
you
And
know,
I think you had a feeling that, when you throw 3 Watchmen pages in this little dinky ass auction, it's not the big auction where they're really pumping it, and there's all this hoopla leading up to it, the big catalogs going out. Did they send out a catalog for this one? I don't remember if they did or not.
I don't. I mean, I get stuff from Heritage, but these days I don't even open the catalogs. If it's a
Yeah.
catalog thing, it kind of gets just like dumped somewhere, and
Yeah,
then
but I
later
think
I'll
some
get
I
around
think
to it.
some buyers, they only shop quarterly,
Mm,
on the big whatever the big signature auctions are. So you threw 3 of these in, and there was only one that was, like, quote, unquote, "good enough"
no,
to get the attention of the big fish, but I think better value was to be had elsewhere. The other pages aren't quite as obviously like hit you over the head as good, but I just don't think there are really any bad Watchmen pages.
I
Period.
agree. I agree. I agree. And, which gets to my point. I think we're going to see the scenario happen a little bit more often, particularly coming up in the November when you have multiple. We talked about this, right?
Hmm.
There is multiple pieces from particular stories, particular artists, right? That you might be able to pinpoint one or two that are really good. What happens to the rest of them, And so,
Hmm.
uh, I mean, you talk about weakness. There's not a ton of weakness in this auction, but this is the type of thing where, like, oh, these might be cracks, right? Um, where normally, people would, okay, I lost out on this. I'm back in it for this and this.
Right.
But that wasn't the case here, and you might see the same thing, multiple times. I think
Hmm.
in that November, and
Right.
so
Well, you could say, okay, so let's say we posed the concept of, hey, if you're buying like 40, 50 pages at $500 a pop, um, that if you're spending $20,000 a year, like, and you say you can't afford a Watchmen page, like, okay, that's not true. We just saw that right now.
yeah.
But then would you be better served? Like, let's take that to the next level. Like, let's say if you're buying $17,000 pages and $28,000 pages, I mean, would you be better off saving up that money and then getting the $84,000 page, just in terms of your satisfaction, right? I mean, would it be better to not do these value buys, not to
Mm.
do 5 of these value buys, but then just like wait and just get like the primo one and done page? I'm not sure.
You
I'm
know,
just
I,
posing the question.
I think that's a good point. And there was the Felix's recent podcast with Richard Martinez talking about the 1 to 2 great pieces a year
Mhm.
over whatever 20 years. And you could have a fantastic collection. I think that case of trade in, whatever, three, four, three, lower Watchmen pages for one great one. Depends on the page. I mean, it depends on how much it speaks to you.
Yeah.
Depends on how much you need it. It's like, for me, Watchmen. It's overall as a book. Um, the book itself is more important than maybe just one scene. I know there are people that like one page or handful of pages really really speak to them, and maybe a long time ago when relatively things were cheaper, they were able to manage to get those, um, but the reality for me is, yeah, I mean, beggars can't be choosers, right? It's like, you know I'd rather have a couple of, I mean, maybe if I could trade two, like literally trade two of my pages, right? For like a page I want, maybe I would, from Watchmen.
It's not that it's just the kind of book where I think that there's something interesting and special about each page,
Yeah.
and it sort of defies the typical logic that drives pricing in our hobby. This is, I mean, if you're getting art from this book, it's because you appreciate the craft of it. Generally, I would say. So, this whole thing about like splash pages, like being worth more than panel pages, or covers being worth more than panel pages. I mean, a splash page in Watchmen isn't really what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's really about um, sequential storytelling and sort of playing off of this 9 panel grid. So yeah, I think Watchmen is kind of a special example,
Oh yeah.
and um, the it's one of the greatest, possibly one of the greatest works of literature, period. And some of the lessons, um, are still so. I mean, shit, we're still fighting with the Russians, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we need some alien life form to come down and sort of unite us as human beings, whether we're Republicans or Democrats or we're Russians or and Americans. I mean,
Mm.
shit, let's just like stop fighting with each other and just
Yeah.
and just realize that we should be one people. But yeah, it's just one of the best.
The
And
legendary work of comics,
yep.
forever associated with the medium of comics.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, you know, they just gave 2 pages away,
Yep.
essentially, right?
Yep.
You know,
It slipped through the cracks. And in this type of a market, asset market, with everything that's going on in the world, maybe we'll see this more and more increasingly more. And let's say if these had gone off, and let's say this was the only one in an auction 12 months ago, would it have gone higher? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, probably.
there's no doubt in my mind, right? Let's say at the next comic link, right? One of these pages was in there. I mean, even at comic link, I have no doubt they'd go higher.
Yeah.
If it was the only page.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so
Yeah. Hmm.
so it's a giveaway. Give me um congrats to the winners of the two. um yeah, and then I put in some Miller for you. Saw
And this is
Miller.
this is Miller that I didn't really know.
Yeah,
Heroes for Hope, which I guess this was written by Harlan Ellison. I don't I did this have like did it have an Art Adams cover or something like
I
that?
have no idea. I mean, it's from
I
85.
think
I
it
was
was like
7 years old.
was it a hunger relief thing? I can't remember. I think I remember this vaguely in the 80s, and maybe it was a Jam comic where they did. I mean, wow, those are pretty cool pencils.
Yeah, I mean they're
They're exquisite, yeah. It's
look
just
at this
this
Miller face right here.
primo
There's Miller
prime
face.
prime Miller.
Yep.
Wow, 1985,
You
just
know,
just beautiful,
I
amazing.
mean, Miller, just fantastic Wolverine images.
Mhm.
I mean, this is it looks better than the Wolverine limited series.
Yeah, that guy looks
Right?
like Bruce it looks like Bruce Wayne, doesn't he? The way
Yeah. I mean,
he's
this
the
is when you're
old
getting
Bruce
into like
Wayne right there.
pretty prime Miller here.
Yeah, pretty
Yep,
cool.
and 57.6. I like the matting job here. Frame in sequence. I think that's it looks good.
Well done, Harlan. Props.
Yeah, and then we had like those 3 Spectre pieces, and
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What it is, but um,
Wraparound cover, so it's big.
yeah.
Um, this is the guy, his hands are melting. God, the Spectre's really fucking with him.
Oh, what
I'm
a
being cut by
mat.
scissors. Yikes. That's pretty grim. It's a good thing they put it
Yeah,
on the back. Wow.
created for a reprint. Okay.
Oh, no, really? Wow.
Reprint of the Adventure comic stories.
Hmm.
You know,
I
wrap
like how those
around, big,
hands.
extra big art. But I guess there's some big Spectre fans out there. I don't know what
Yep,
to say. Or
dude.
Jim Aparo Spectre fans. I mean,
Yep.
it's not.
They like the magic hands.
Yeah.
Do that shit all the time.
Oh yeah.
That's what I do.
And then a random Miller Ellison book cover
Uh-huh.
in the Sin City era.
Very cool. It's cool to see, yeah, it's cool to see his different styles from different periods.
and you respect Miller. I respect Miller. We've had Miller on this show, every show. Um, I'll take a Watchman page, any Watchman page, almost any day at this price
Oh,
than
yeah, over
this
this, like,
beast, right?
rando cover. I mean, it's a very cool image, but, never read the book. Maybe I
Yeah,
should,
yeah.
but
I mean, any day of the week, and
yeah.
so I'm pretty sure anyone else would too. I mean, if you're a
Yep, all
comic
day long.
fan, like how do you? Yeah, you have a Watchmen page for this price or this, and
Yeah.
and
No.
then and yeah, and then somehow as the inefficient market, one Watchmen page went for what is that, 70% of the price of that,
Yeah.
right? Crazy. So yeah. So I mean, getting back to the value thing, um, there was a discussion on I think it's on the Comic Art L email chain about this is all along with kind of the craziness of prices lately. But I think Mike Berkey said something like, "Hey, um, I've had to buy lots of art that isn't really up my alley, knowing that um, other people might want it."
Mhm.
And that's how I was going to get the art that was up my alley. So what he was talking about was like, okay, he's after, you know, uh, Ramita Spidey art, right? And sometimes in order to get um, Ramita out of other collections, he's going to have other things. And so he would buy, um, I don't know, I can't remember what he mentioned, like Ross Andrew Spidey art, right? That he wasn't a huge fan necessarily of, and he would buy it up. It was cheap relatively. He didn't really want to necessarily keep it, but it was cheaper. And if he had that as ammunition, maybe it would help him later pick up whatever, for the Andrew fans out there, some Ramita art, right? And so, to some degree, I think that applies, um, to anything that we're doing. What do you think about that strategy? Do you think you have to buy sometimes, if you can get good value, right?
Mhm.
Um, Stuff that you don't necessarily plan to keep.
I don't have enough capital to be able to do that,
Mhm,
right? So if you come into it and you've got a bankroll and you think that you can make that bankroll bigger, by buy low, sell high, that kinda stuff. But honestly, I don't have the time to do that, and I don't have the bankroll to do that. So anything I buy, it's because I really like it. That's all. I barely have enough money to be able to do that. There have been situations where, I tried to get a piece out of a collector, and they say, "Well, yeah, like this, I'm not really interested in selling it." I was like, "Well, what are you looking for? Maybe I got something." And the guy said, "Hey, I'm looking for these 2 things," right? So, what did I did? I scoured the internet and I found one of those things, I bought it, and then traded it to the guy and got a piece out got the
mhm,
piece that I wanted. So, I'll do it situationally, but I don't have the capital, I don't have the time, and I don't have the acumen of a guy like Berkey who knows multiple markets. Like, there are a few select markets. I like to say I collect from my top 10. There are 10 artists that I really care about and focus on, and I know those markets really well, both private and public, but I can't know hundreds of markets like a guy like Berkey or
mhm.
Albert, uh, might know.
Yeah.
I don't know, have you ever done that, Jason, in your collecting, have you ever tried to do that?
Um,
Anticipating rather than sort of responding to the specifics of a particular deal.
Yeah, I mean, there have been there's been one case where I think I've done that, where like
Mhm.
I've traded a bunch of stuff that I kind of don't want, or wanted to auction off anyway, for one bigger thing that I thought might be easier to move later, or like
Oh, okay.
kind of trade, or
Uh-huh.
kind of throw into trades, to get people to maybe give up something that I want, and that ended up backfiring horribly, horribly. One of the
Oh, so
biggest.
you get stuck so
Yeah,
that's the other risk if you don't have enough bankroll and, like, if you misjudge it, you might get stuck with it. You might have
yeah,
something tied capital ti like, your money tied up in something that you can't move.
yeah. That, or you just take a huge loss, right? Or like at auction or whatever, which is what I did. That was
Mhm.
my biggest loser at auction.
Mm.
Shocking, whatever. I don't want to relive it, but
Yeah.
that's the way it goes. I mean,
But
I
so
just.
if you don't want it, then why would anybody else want it and pay up for it, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, it's not like I didn't want it. It was like, oh, it's a
Mhm.
good example, but it's not something that was already on my list. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Right?
I'd
It's kind of
rather
like,
I'd rather take that money and just buy more of what I'm really super passionate about and
yeah,
pages that I absolutely love because somebody out if your goal is to ultimately use them as trade bait or something like that, or a means to an end, well, if it doesn't work out, at least you'll love it, and then because you love it, maybe the odds of success are gonna be higher, in the future, so I'm a big believer in if you really like something, buy 3,
yeah.
'cause then you got options at least.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think in action, that is more my philosophy. You know me. I
Mhm.
I tend to load up on the stuff that I like just over and over again. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think I've learned my lesson as far as the Berkey philosophy, which it works for him, and I get
Mhm.
it, because he's moving a lot of art,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, he's got more traffic than you or I are gonna have.
yeah, I mean, I just don't at this point, like, yeah, financially or whatever,
Mhm.
I can't afford to waste my
Yeah.
bullets on stuff that
Mm.
I don't want to keep. And just the fact that you're getting it knowing, hey, yeah, I'm not really that into this. I'm just buying this
Yeah.
to put in my back pocket. It devalues that anyway immediately, right? In
Mhm.
your mind, and,
Hmm.
probably in your ability to get rid of it.
Mhm.
Um,
I wonder
so
how much those dealers are all just sitting on dead inventory that they know they can't move, right?
now,
They've just got all this working capital tied up in this stuff that there's basically no bid for it, and they're not willing to ever, take the price to free that up.
mm,
Whereas, if they get something great in, they sell it almost instantaneously.
now,
So they book that profit. Is just, would they be better off just but I guess you always have to have the appearance of having, like, mountains of art. So even if it's like a pile of dog shit, you go to a convention,
I mean, I think,
you gotta have the stacks of Atoyas to make people feel like, "Hey, it's worth, digging through this," and you do find stuff from time to time.
yeah, I think in this era, it's a different era, and back in the day when like they were every you had to go through the dealer for anything. You had to go to cons, go to the dealer tables to get art.
Mhm,
That's one thing, where they can ramp up inventory, and people will spend their money and at their one shot or whatever to spend. But now it's just so many options, it's we see lots of dealers, I think, have difficulty, getting good inventory,
mhm.
the amount of um, you know, flip from auction, or flip from eBay pieces that I see these days is pretty crazy. Um, so yeah, I mean that was a kind of maybe a different era, different prices. But it
Yeah,
makes
no, a lot of times, yeah, you will see stuff pop up on the dealer sites, what do they wait, like, 6 to 12 months? They'll buy it, and they'll put it up there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're straight from Heritage, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, Heritage is the center of it all now, and
Yeah. Well, you gotta
which
think
is
you gotta think that all these guys are just there to keep people honest, right? So
yeah.
I'm just kinda surprised at, you know, um, them letting this
Where were they?
where
Why
where
are they?
were they?
Why? How
Exactly,
are they
exactly.
allowing
Where
this
the
to happen?
where
It's
were they?
shocking. Yeah, it
When
is
was the last
really
time you saw a
shocking.
dealer have a Watchman page to
Yes,
sell?
yes.
Yeah.
Like you can't buy this for less than 20, and then I mean whatever they could probably flip it for 30.
Right, exactly.
Easily. And so I don't know. I
Mm,
feel fortunate. Um, you know, I'm sure this other winner feels fortunate too. Um, and you get it because you would always want a Watchman page, and
mhm.
you just didn't expect it to be so low, right?
Jason, maybe you
Oh,
should have just bought all 3 and just averaged it out, right?
oh
You
man,
get all you
well,
get all of Harlan's, male tushy pages.
oh yeah. I mean, the frame it Heroes for Hope style, right? The Harlan Ellison Watchman
The Harlan Ellison
ass
Jason
page,
Kim collection.
ass, you know, trifecta.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I mean, what is this? I mean, average we're
It
looking
was
at
like a
130
yeah.
times yeah, so 40. Yeah, it's about average price these days for a Watchman page, low 40s.
Yeah, that's what you should have done. You should just bought all 3. I don't know why you're fucking around.
I mean, who look, after this page, who could have predicted? Who could have predicted, yo, these next two results,
Uh,
Dude, I promise you, there are people kicking themselves right now looking at this.
yeah,
Okay, after this auction, there are like people. I'm laughing. They're kicking themselves. Like, how did that happen? F that
yeah,
guy. F
yeah.
that dude that got this. And I'll take it. I'll take it, man. You
Uh,
know.
awesome. Well played,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay. So so you're falling in line with the Richard Martinez 1 to 2 great pieces a year now.
I'd say get more than 1 to 2 if you can, but if that's in your if that's what your budget is, I
It's
mean,
the best
I would
you can
rather
these days.
save it up and go quality,
Mm,
than buy just sort of have a constant stream of cardboard boxes coming in and just buying all these onesie twosies that don't mean that much to you. I mean, if that's the stuff that lights your heart on fire and it happens to be inexpensive, then that's great. I mean,
yeah.
congratulations,
Yeah.
right?
So I mean,
You don't have to be paying, paying this kind of money for art. So if you can find that stuff and you love it, shit, that's awesome.
you're speaking
But
from experience, though.
yeah, yeah, but
Have
I
you
think
evolved into this? Have you
yep.
evolved into more of attack the stuff you love?
Mhm. Yeah, I really when I first started collecting, and I think it's a very common story that people go through where you see something, you're after that, you see that shiny object, you see
Mm,
something in an auction, and you just bid on it, and over time you get a little, you're able to sort of refine your eye a little more, and you understand the pages that have a lasting effect on you, that make you that are the reason why you're in the hobby, um, but you're gonna do stupid shit from time to time. I mean, that's the
mm.
thing, like, sort of expecting that you're gonna be perfectly
The
disciplined. It's not.
sickness of this hobby
It is
will
sickening.
take its toll.
It is sickening.
No.
Some people have incredible discipline, though, and I respect that a ton. I'm not one of them. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and
I
it's
know.
worked out well for me, generally, in the context of a rising market,
Mm.
but, in a different kind of market, maybe it wouldn't be as good.
I mean, you've landed some. People don't know, but Yokuri has he has a museum quality collection, a number of pieces that, I mean, I don't throw out museum quality, just like willy nilly. You landed some great all time pieces that anyone would want to have.
Just
Um,
like you, Jason.
no,
You know?
I'm more of like
Oh, yeah.
like maybe a gallery showing at
Oh, man.
random university,
Oh, man.
once every
This is
5
not
years.
true. This is not true, but okay. Okay.
You know,
If that's the
you know,
narrative that you wanna spin, you're just
no. But
a
what I'm
humble
saying
collector
is
buying Watchmen pages,
what I'm
you know.
saying is
Okay.
you evolved into, right, more of like a uh, get the best you can, right, and be patient, be at the price you want to pay, right,
Right.
not like pay any price for it. Although I'm sure there've been like, a couple pieces here and there where you went in thinking you're gonna pay whatever it takes, right?
Oh, yeah. For sure, for
There
sure. I
are
mean, but
there are
part of it depends
great
on
pieces
what
you've
part
gotten.
of the life cycle the, page is in, right? If it's in sort of this more mature, 30, you know, 30 plus years after the fact, like 80s nostalgia thing, I mean, you can't really do that, and I think you have to really understand where the market is,
Mm,
understand where the private market is, right? And just talk to a lot of people that own stuff like that, feel them out, give them offers, just get a sense, because then you can get a sense for how scarce that inventory might be,
mm,
and to get it, what it would take to potentially extract it from other people, and that will help you make better decisions when it comes to auction time,
mm,
or when it comes with negotiating with somebody, to just if you have that sense, that can be an advantage in certain situations where your perception be sharper than other people's might be, whether or not they're participating in an auction, or they're a counterparty in a deal.
yeah,
There are definitely situations where things I'm buying is just purely for the love. Right. They're just certain, there's one book in particular, and I don't wanna name what it is, but, it was sort of the reason that sparked me getting back into comics, and it caused me to seek out art from that book, and, um for me, this is not, it's not rational, but hopefully, if I'm making more rational decisions elsewhere in the collection, like that could be a certain percentage of whatever money you're gonna put towards this hobby. And then there's more like modern stuff, right? And for me, like the philosophy is just, maybe you pay a little bit more for it now than, but if you truly adore it, it's probably not gonna be ruinous thing where,
yeah,
if you're overpaying for a Watchman page, or maybe not Watchmen, but I mean, if you're overpaying for a vintage page, you're paying this kind of money for it, then it can be potentially ruinous.
mm,
But I just want to enjoy this, and if I get out even, right? That's what you say, Jason, right? That's your philosophy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd be thrilled if I could get out what I put in. Um, and not to say that I'm going to get out of everything. There are many pieces. Why would I sell them? It's just, you have a piece of history like this Watchmen page. It is a piece of history, right? And just a landmark uh, artistic work, right? That's
Mhm.
just part of the zeitgeist, right? Of 80s and beyond, of just comics. Why would you sell it? I mean, if you don't have to, why? Like, why this person? I mean, Harlan Ellison, well, passed away, but um You know,
Yeah,
why would anybody that puts up a Watchmen page put it up? You know, I don't know.
yeah,
You know, it's kind of
yeah.
like, of course, the value, for some of this stuff has gone so high,
Mhm.
and you get an offer you can't refuse. But
Yeah, and you might have a financial commitment somewhere in
yeah,
your life, like
but if you don't have any of those things, right?
yeah.
Why? Like it's
Yeah, and there's probably other stuff, like, further down in your collection that you could sell too.
yeah. I mean,
Tougher to
maybe it's
move, though,
different.
tougher to move.
Maybe it's different if you paid 150 grand for something. It's kind of like, all right, yeah. I mean,
Mhm,
it's a huge chunk of cash, and maybe I need that, or whatever, right? Um, but at less than 20 grand, right? It's just like, I'm not saying that's not chump change. It's big money, and let's say I had 15 to 20 grand I was about to spend on some piece of art, and I was trying to choose between a few things, and then this thing popped up, this deal of a lifetime popped up. um yeah, it made my decision for me, and now I'm restricted, right? um I had probably a couple Alack Center pages that I was after, that was probably going to cost me somewhere in this range for those two. And now I don't know, I don't know if I can pull that off, right?
mhm,
And I was going back and forth with myself. There was this, um, one of the dealers put up like a Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man cover, and then I heard about this like Love and Rocket story, complete story, all like in the same range of pricing, and I'm sure there could have been dealing to get like some lower or whatever, but um, you know, then this auction came up, didn't expect this, but this was just too good to be true for me. It was already, I would
mhm.
love more Watchmen pages, and this was just like boom on a silver platter, right?
Yeah,
And so, you take what you can get, and then recover and move on. Maybe sell.
mhm,
I mean, I guarantee you, there's stuff I can sell lower on my list, right? That I would, I'd rather have this page than probably I could find, 20,000 worth of art, that I have that, you know, I don't need to have compared to this. Not saying I'm going to sell, but yeah, I mean, this goes right up there, near the top. It's a freaking Watchmen page.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah. But we're all I think, like, 99% of the hobby, um, people in general, are operating with financial constraints, right? You
yeah.
can't you can't buy everything that you wanna buy no matter what budget you're on, and there's some guys, that don't seem to have that problem.
Oh yeah.
They'll post 100 pages of, new stuff that they bought from Heritage and over in like a week.
Power
Um,
buyer, man. Power buyer.
yeah,
And
homeboy is gonna break his scanner.
yeah,
He's gonna have to.
actually, he's been mighty quiet lately. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to see after November. But
Yeah. Yeah, he usually saves up a bunch and then just, decides to scan them all in,
yeah.
or maybe he doesn't want the attention anymore, I don't know, but,
Some of the most ridiculous buying I've ever seen. I don't know what it was like
it's
when
impressive. It's impressive.
vacuum or whatever, but just
Very impressive.
sheer quantity. Um,
He got a bunch of Watchmen pages too.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
so he's got good
I guess he
taste.
got
He's like, yeah.
tired. He got tired of the Watchmen page. Unless he got this one. Unless he got this one, he just wants certain pages.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, we're all you operate under budgetary constraints and maybe that 1 or 2 pieces a year, yeah, what if, so if you've got a $2,000 budget, if you get 1 or 2 pieces, or if you have a $10,000 budget or $20,000 budget, I mean, whatever, how would you optimize your satisfaction in the hobby? Would it be with 1 or 2 pieces, or would it be getting for the same money, getting, 20 or 30 pieces? I guess it's really personal, it's really individual. It
Yeah,
goes into why you're collecting art. I mean, if this is iconic, and it's evergreen. Um, but some people just might, like, I just like the art. I like this story, and
Yeah.
that might be
I mean, look, it, I found with this hobby, there is never a moment where you cannot, like, you don't have an opportunity to buy something. You can go out and buy something today, and like that's pretty decent, you
Oh
know.
gosh, it's like having a casino, um,
Mm.
on your smartphone. Oh,
Yeah,
wait,
yeah,
they're doing that.
yeah, yeah.
I
Well, I
mean,
mean,
think about what they're doing and just
the
ruining people's
yeah,
lives by
the
putting a
temptation.
casino in your pocket. Like, that's essentially what this is. It's
Yeah,
like, weekly auctions at
endless,
Heritage and
endless. At
eBay
any
and
given moment,
dealer drops and
any
just
given moment, you
endless
can spend.
temptations,
Yeah, and so
Scylla and Charybdis. I mean, just tie me to the mast, cover my eyes and
from that perspective, the 1 to 2 pieces could mean, hey, yeah, like control yourself for like the one, right? Like
mhm,
not just anyone, right? Like whatever the price, forget the price, right? Um, it could be cheap, it could be expensive, whatever, right? It's not necessarily about saving up, but it's about, yeah, whatever your restrictions as far as monetarily, do you have the money, that moment where that piece you should never in your right mind pass on for you, right? That fits you and your
mhm,
collection and is right up your alley, that you can jump on it, right? It's
yeah.
like you just don't want to be the person where like the piece of your dreams pops up and you have just bought like five other pieces
Yeah,
that
always have
are much
firepower.
less, right? Yeah.
Always have a little bit of firepower, that makes sense,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, from that perspective, probably, I mean, there are pieces where, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I've only regretted the stuff that I've missed out on, that I wasn't able to like pull off.
Yeah. I
I've
do
never
regret
missed out on
marginal
like,
decisions, though, like marginal buys that,
yeah,
add up, like the ten buys that add up and that could be like a chunk of paying for, like, a significant piece when you want it. I'm trying to get more disciplined in my
but
buy
you're
filter.
pretty good about fixing that quickly, right? I mean, sometimes you take losses or whatever, right? Sometimes
Yeah, oh,
you
yeah,
run
no,
over.
I call it the idiot tax. Like,
Yeah,
I'll pay the idiot tax and just, I'll take a 10 or 20% hit on something
yeah,
just to move it and not have it tied up in something that I realize is a mistake.
yeah,
But I'm trying to get better at not committing those mistakes in the first place, so I don't have to pay that idiot tax.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think I heard somewhere, someone, I think it was maybe Satya who was saying on Felix's podcast, who was saying that you should really understand why you're collecting.
yeah,
And once you understand that, so like I understand that, hey, 80s nostalgia, 80s vintage, 80s artistic quality, right? But then I've got modern artists where I feel like the new modern classics are being created, where I love I love the books where it feels like the artist is putting everything they have into it.
mm,
It's not just a job for pay. It's something where they're trying to make a statement and something that's sort of deeply personal to them. That to me is what art is all about. It's all
yeah.
about communication. It's all about trying to relate common human experiences. And if you're just like fucking drawing the X-Men or some shit like that. No offense against the X-Men or anything, but I mean, if it's just like a gig and you get a script and you're like, "Shit, I gotta draw 20 pages in
At this
20
point,
days.
I mean,
I'm gonna bang this shit out and
the
I'm not
amount
gonna
of
think about it," But
the
whereas
amount
it's
of
like
big two titles there are,
yeah.
the amount of X titles there are, whatever. Yeah, I mean, if you're on it, it is just a
Mm,
gig, you know?
yeah.
It's just a
There are
stop.
some runs that are special. I mean,
Yeah,
there are some runs where there people are doing killer work on that kinda stuff, but I like the stuff where it's like a personal independent project and, that person is saving up all their good ideas and really killing themselves on the art to make something
yeah,
special. That to me is cool. That's the kind of stuff that I wanna have in my collection and, maybe by association, I like a vampire, like a soul vampire, I feed off of that or something. I mean, it's pretty sad and pathetic, like a wannabe artist,
I mean, you
I
gotta
can't
support.
do it, I'll, like, suck someone else's, soul
Hey,
through,
you
yeah.
will. All right, you will. I'll be sure to pump you on this channel when you do. All right, but yeah, I mean, you support creator-owned work, support independent work. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't right now. It's the most exciting stuff. It's the most soulful, right? Um,
Yeah,
just
like, look what, Alan wasn't, he was I mean, he can pretend like he thinks this is terrible now, but
yeah,
whatever, he was killing himself
yeah,
to make this great.
yeah. And so, yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it. Um, Good discussion on just collecting in general, I think. Um, yeah, thanks for coming on so late, yo.
I
Huh?
mean, that's a sick thing is, like, I could stay up for another 3 hours talking about this stuff,
Yeah,
because it's so exciting to me.
yeah,
So hopefully, people haven't, already tuned out,
yeah.
but, hope you stuck al if you stuck around this long, you may be sicker than us, so, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, and hopefully no one took offense to anything that we said. Um,
Yeah, if
it's
you're
just
easily triggered, just go watch somebody else
yeah,
because
it's just thoughts
we
on
just don't need to
collecting.
be hassled,
I don't think,
we
but
wanna
I
speak
don't.
freely.
We're not busting anyone's balls. It's I'm just glad to be able to talk to my buddy Yo, and yeah, um, this fun hobby of ours, this sick and fun at the same time hobby of ours.
Sickening. Sickening.
All
Alright,
right, bye.
thanks. Bye.